You could die. At least tell me your name.
It's not who I am underneath, but what I do that defines me.
Bruce?
The Dark Knight Trilogy, in my opinion, is probably one of the best film trilogies of all time. Batman Begins and The Dark Knight are probably in my top 5 films. And I also love The Dark Knight Rises. So as a whole, this probably is one of my best film series of all times. And definitely my best Batman films. I'm a big Batman fan in general, so my opinion is biased. But looking at the reactions and the reviews, and the overall feedback of these films, a lot of others share the same opinion. With The Dark Knight being ranked the 3rd best film of all time on IMDb, after The Godfather and Shawshank Redemption, which are 2 classic movies. The Dark Knight Rises also comes in at 71, and Batman Begins comes in at 129. So overall, these are 3 great films, and today I'm going to be breaking down why this film series is so highly rated, what I enjoyed about it, and why I think it stands out so much as a film series and not just the individual films. Before I get into the video, please make sure you subscribe to the channel so you can keep up to date with all the videos I post. So the first reason which makes these movies so good as a trilogy is the fact that they're not just great films by themselves, but they work really well together, and each film complements the other film. Each film shows different sides of the characters, making it a well-rounded trilogy, and shows Batman and Bruce in a different light in every single film. So let's just take Batman as an example. The first movie essentially shows the origin story of Batman. Dark Knight shows Batman as an absolute superhero and him tackling his biggest challenge yet, which is facing the villain, the Joker. And then the last film essentially shows the story of how this Batman resigns and basically hangs up his cape, essentially giving his trilogy a beginning, a middle and end. And for me, that makes it really complete, as a lot of film series these days sometimes miss either a beginning and an end in a film series. And to have this all in the space of 3 films makes it such a good watch. Not only did they do this with Batman, but a lot of the other character development through the 3 films were very good as well. So let's take a background character such as Alfred as an example. In movie 1, we see how he falls into the position of basically being Bruce's foster parents, taking guardianship after Bruce's parents got killed. Then we see him in The Dark Knight as he is basically Batman's main supporter and is helping him with his campaigns. And then we see in the last film him actually leave Batman's side and retire from his responsibilities and then come back again at the end. With all the characters across the 3 films, there's great character development, it shows characters in different lights, and I think that's what makes this such a strong trilogy, is that every single film complements the other one, which makes them really easy to watch together. Separate from it being a great trilogy, these are also great standalone movies. In my opinion, these aren't the type of movies where you need to watch the prior movies to understand the plot line and what's going on in that movie. You can watch each movie by itself, as each movie has its own storyline, its own set of villains, and just in general they are great standalone movies. As an example of this, just the Dark Knight movie by itself was rated the 3rd best film of all time and was viewed a lot more than Batman Begins. So a lot more people actually watched The Dark Knight than they did Batman Begins, proving you don't need to watch the first film in the sequel first. So the second reason why I love these films is all the great scenes and moments in them. Some of the best scenes in movie history, in my opinion, were in these films. So a few of these were in Batman Begins, where Bruce tells Rachel indirectly that he's Batman, giving this kind of revealing moment where he shows that he's not just a flashy, rich playboy person, but he is someone with good intentions and he is willing to put himself in danger for the sake of saving other people's lives. And I thought that was executed really well in this scene. Another scene is at the end of The Dark Knight, where Batman then takes the blames for the crimes that Harvey Two-Face committed, making him a villain in the eyes of the public and police. Again, showing just how willing Batman is to help Gotham. And you really get a sense of sacrifice in this scene, where he essentially sacrifices his reputation and himself in order to do what's right for the people. So there's 2 scenes out of many throughout all the films that were thought were great. And these scenes as well, for me, give it a lot of rewatch value. These are movies that can be watched over and over again because you get to see scenes like this. Another reason why I thought this trilogy was so good was because you actually get to see the origin of Batman, which means instead of just coming and watching a Batman film where you just see him already as the Bat, you get to see the whole development journey and go on that journey with Bruce. Christopher Nolan, the director, I know wanted to make sure he created an origin story, diving deep into Bruce and his journey to become Batman. But he did it in such a great way where he shows his mindset, his intentions, his motivations, and throughout the whole journey. Everything from his parents' death as a kid, all the way through to training to be Batman, making the Batcave, buying the Batmobile, and all the things in between. When you have an origin story which is really strong, it makes everything you watch after just more interesting as you're more invested into the character, the plot, and the storyline. What can make and break films, in my opinion, is the ending. And I think these films had a great ending, specifically the ending of Dark Knight Rises. We see so many great films that are just really good films but get ruined by such a poor ending. But this trilogy doesn't do that. In my opinion, I don't think the ending was perfect, but I think it was good enough that it didn't disappoint me. I thought for a few reasons. We see Batman basically pretend to sacrifice himself, but use this fake death as a way to resign from the position of Batman. And it was a twist ending because originally we did think he was going to sacrifice himself. But then we find out that that was just his getaway card. It did also lay the bricks down to a potential sequel or spin-off, introducing the character Robin, which was awesome. Ultimately, the ending was short and sweet in my opinion, but I felt like it rounded off all the characters such as Alfred, the last scene with Gordon, Batman and Catwoman running away. Even the scene just before this where Batman tells Gordon who his identity was. One of the main reasons for the success in his movies, in my opinion, lies with the actors. Just looking at the villains within his series, across the 3 movies we saw actors such as Liam Neeson, Cillian Murphy, Heath Ledger and Tom Hardy play some of the best villains ever showcased on the movie screen. A personal favourite is Heath Ledger's Joker, who is probably my favourite villain of all time. I feel like Ledger was perfect for the role in my opinion, and no other Joker has ever come close to that. These villains are just so good. I don't want to break down every single one as there's so much to go to with each one. I feel like these actors did a really good job at playing these villains. I met Joker, for example, who was a complete unhinged terrorist that lived off carnage and essentially treated Batman like a kind of dance partner within the carnage. Ra's al Ghul, played by Liam Neeson, was a sinister cult leader that probably knew Batman the best, as he was the one that helped train him and essentially made him into Batman. And Bane in the 3rd film was just a criminal mastermind who was such a physical and mental challenge for Batman that it really brought the best out of the superhero. Not just that, but each film has more than one villain, making the film have different challenges for Batman and different dimensions. So for example, The Dark Knight was a great film and the Joker was a great villain. Introducing Harvey Dent as a villain origin story throughout the film and making his character have the main character arc, I thought complemented the film's storyline as a whole and was just a great addition to the movie. Obviously there was lots of other great actors within the movie, such as Christian Bale playing Batman, Morgan Freeman playing Lucia Fox, Gary Oldman as Commissioner Gordon, and Michael Caine playing Alfred. All these actors appeared in all 3 movies, playing vital roles and just adding to the storyline. One of the more subtle reasons why I think this trilogy did so well was the music for the trilogy. Now it stands out massively to me because I actually like listening to theme tunes of films. The soundtrack across these films were done by Hans Zimmer and James Newton Howard. But to summarise, the music was really amazing and brought the best out of all the scenes and Batman itself. And I feel like they executed the music perfectly. Some of the scenes where I felt like the music added so much was in The Dark Knight, when the Joker reveals his face at the beginning and you kind of get that orchestra drop, which just makes the scene sound so sinister. Everything about that scene just intensifies because of the music. And another scene where I felt like the soundtrack played a big part was the actual Dark Knight theme tune, when the Batman did something kind of heroic, whether that flying the bomb out of Gotham in Dark Knight Rises, or after he reveals his identity to Rachel and the Batman theme tune kicks in. It just adds a lot more depth to the scene and makes the superhero feel more iconic and heroic. I think the music was used very carefully with Joker. In a lot of his scenes, they actually used it to kind of up the intensity of that moment. So when the Joker was looking for Harvey Dent at Harvey Dent's fundraiser, you hear this kind of music where something's going to happen and it almost has the audience on the edge of its seat when they're doing that. I think this version of Batman was very carefully crafted. A big thing that stood out to me from this Batman in comparison to previous ones was his suit, his gadgets and the Batmobile. First of all, the suit of Batman, in my opinion, gives us a strong feel for the character, and his battle suit was by far the best. The biggest thing for me was how realistic the suit was. and how the equipment looked and felt for him. Look at the previous suits from previous versions of the character, more cartoony, where this one feels much more realistic. So instead of it being any kind of like blue or grey, this suit comes in a matte black colour, making it quite lightweight and agile, almost like a ninja suit. Also giving Batman more of a darker feel to his character, instead of him being just a general comic book superhero. This is the same with the Batmobile. Instead of it being like a flashy car with spikes or anything on it like they did in previous movies, it was more of like a small tank, which wasn't very sleek, but it was more of that practical, realistic element that they put into it. These features fit the idea that this version of Batman was a dark Batman that was more grounded and realistic, making him almost more relatable to people watching. And this added to the whole concept of Batman being a darker character. I think this was the theme across the 3 movies, and that's one of the reasons why, out of 2 of the movies, they actually removed the word Batman from the title and instead called it The Dark Knight and The Dark Knight Rises. Ultimately, for me, the list goes on for why I thought these movies and the trilogy were so good. These were just a few of my thoughts on why these were such good rounding films and why this made such a good film trilogy. One dream of mine would be if they actually made another film with Christian Bale's Dark Knight, or at least featured him in another film in some way. But to be honest, I don't think that's going to happen. But let me know what you think of these films, and make sure to leave a comment on your thoughts on the films and the trilogy. And also make sure to subscribe so you never miss a video, as I will be creating more videos like this in the future. Thank you.